The space station hung in orbit like a giant silver eye above the emerald blue planet below. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved in and out of its docking bays, carrying travelers from countless worlds. For the aliens who called this station home, life was a constant dance of trade, technology, and politics. But today, something unusual floated through the crowded corridors of human. Ethan moved carefully, trying to keep up with the flow of beings that towered over him. Most aliens were taller, with limbs longer and faster than his. And their eyes, some glowing, some patterned, gave him a strange feeling of being constantly watched. He had been trained for first contact missions, but nothing in his training prepared him for the sheer oddity of this station. "Watch out." "Human," a tall insectoid alien said, swishing its multiple arms as it passed. Ethan nodded politely and stepped aside, mindful not to touch the polished walls or the glowing panels lining the corridor. Everything here was delicate, and even a small mistake could cause a malfunction. Then she appeared. Lyra, a young alien girl with silver-scaled skin and hair that shimmered like liquid metal, paused as she spotted him. Her eyes, a brilliant violet, widened slightly in surprise, then narrowed into a mischievous gleam. She had seen humans before, but they were rare, and they always seemed fragile. "Look at him," Lyra whispered to the alien beside her, a small winged companion. "He doesn't even know which way to walk." Her companion giggled, a sound like chimes in the wind. Ethan caught her gaze for a brief moment and felt a chill. There was something in her eyes that was teasing, almost predatory, but not cruel yet. He continued forward, holding his head high despite the strange stares. Humans were known for courage, even when faced with beings much stronger or faster. That courage had carried them through impossible situations before. Ethan hoped it would carry him here too. Lyra decided she wanted to make this interesting. She stepped in front of Ethan, deliberately blocking his path. "Well, if it isn't a human," she said, her voice musical, but dripping with amusement. "Do you need directions, little one?" Ethan hesitated for only a moment before replying. "I am capable of finding my own way, thank you." His voice was calm but firm. He didn't want to fight, this was a mission of diplomacy, but he wouldn't let himself be humiliated. Lyra laughed softly. "Oh, I like him," she said to her companion. "He talks so bravely, but look at him. So small, so slow, so human." Other aliens passing by began to notice and snicker. It was not unusual here for the newcomers to be mocked, but humans were particularly easy targets. Their bodies were not built for speed or strength like most other species. Their skin was soft. Their senses were limited compared to the alien norm. And yet, something about them made other beings curious. Ethan ignored the whispers and the giggles. He had learned long ago that reacting to mockery only encouraged it. Instead, he focused on observing. He noticed the patterns in the station, the way the gravity adjusted slightly near the docking bays, the movement of the panels, and even the flow of energy in the walls. Humans might not be physically perfect, but they were excellent observers. Lyra, however, was not ready to leave him alone. She followed him as he navigated the twisting corridors, occasionally making small gestures to distract him. "Do you even understand what these signs mean?" she asked, pointing to a holographic map that hovered in the air. "I can figure it out," Ethan replied calmly, his eyes scanning the map. He touched the hologram lightly, and it shimmered, responding to his touch in ways that surprised even him. Humans were adaptable. Even technology designed for other species could be understood if approached with patience and logic. Lyra's smile faltered for a moment. She wasn't used to anyone ignoring her teasing. Most beings cowered or stumbled under the weight of her ridicule. Ethan, however, seemed different. By the time they reached the main atrium, a crowd had gathered. Aliens of every shape and size paused to watch the human. Some were curious. Some were skeptical. Some, like Lyra, were openly mocking. "Step aside, human," she said with a laugh. "Or do you need me to carry you?" Ethan simply looked at her and said, "I do not need to be carried. Thank you." "Al." His tone was polite, but his words carried a quiet confidence. Lyra felt a strange twist of frustration. How could someone so small appear so unshakable? The crowd murmured. Aliens whispered among themselves. One elder, a reptilian diplomat with emerald scales, raised an eyebrow. Interesting, he muttered. That human. He does not fear. Not even the smallest hint of it. Lyra glared at Ethan, feeling a mix of irritation and fascination. She decided to make it a little more difficult for him. Ahead of them, a set of sliding doors led to a transport hub. She activated the door controls remotely, causing the doors to slide back and forth erratically. Ethan paused, watching the doors with steady eyes. Then, with careful timing, he slipped between them as they moved, never once touching the metal or losing his balance. The crowd gasped. Lyra's mouth opened in surprise. Luck, she muttered under her breath. But Ethan's calm demeanor told her otherwise. This was no accident. The elder reptilian diplomat stepped forward. Young one, he said to Lyra, perhaps it would be wise to observe rather than mock. Humans have peculiar strengths, Lyra blinked. Peculiar strengths? What could a fragile human possibly do that would impress anyone here? She shook her head, though a small part of her mind was curious. Ethan continued walking, following the directions given to him. He noticed the smaller details, the subtle glow of the panels indicating energy flow, the faint vibrations in the floor showing movement patterns, and even the way certain corridors seemed quieter than others. While other beings relied on speed or sheer memory, he used observation, logic, and intuition. Lyra watched silently now. Her earlier amusement had faded into something more complicated. She had never encountered a human like this, someone who appeared weak but carried an invisible strength. Finally, they arrived at a platform where ships were docking. Ethan paused, taking a deep breath. He was far from home, surrounded by beings who could have crushed him without effort. Yet he did not feel fear. Instead, he felt anticipation. Not bad, Lyra said softly, almost to herself. She had followed him all the way here, and had seen him navigate the station with a calm determination. It was different from the arrogance or brute force she usually encountered. There was something quietly powerful about it. Ethan turned slightly, sensing her presence. Are you done following me? He asked politely. Lyra hesitated. Then, with a small laugh, she replied, For now. But I am curious. You are different from the other humans I have seen. Ethan nodded. Perhaps curiosity is the first step to understanding. The platform doors opened, revealing a sleek transport ship waiting to take him further into the unknown regions of the station. Ethan stepped forward confidently, knowing that the real challenges were ahead. Lyra watched him go, feeling a strange mix of respect and disbelief. She had thought humans were fragile, but this one, he might be something far more interesting. As the transport ship lifted off, Lyra whispered to herself, We'll see what you're really capable of, human. We'll see. And with that, the stage was set. The teasing and mockery had only just begun, but already the first seeds of respect and perhaps friendship were taking root. Ethan's journey on this alien station was far from over. But one thing was certain. Humans had a way of surprising everyone, even the most confident alien observers. The transport ship hummed as it glided through the station's upper levels. Carrying Ethan to a part of the station few visitors ever saw. It was here that the alien authorities held their testing arena, a place where beings from across the galaxy demonstrated their skills in survival, intelligence, and adaptability. For many, it was a game of pride. For Ethan, it was a test of patience and determination. As the ship docked, Ethan stepped onto the platform. The arena loomed before him, a massive structure filled with shifting walls, energy streams and obstacles designed to challenge even the most advanced species. He could feel the nervous excitement in the air. Most participants thrived on competition and used it to show off their abilities. Ethan, however, approached it differently. He understood that his strength lay not in speed or sheer power, but in observation, creativity, and calm reasoning. Lyra was already there, perched lightly on a rail above the platform. She had volunteered to participate, confident she would outshine everyone, including the human who had caught her curiosity earlier. Her violet eyes sparkled with amusement as she saw Ethan approach. "You're really going to try this, human?" she called down. Her tone was teasing, her voice echoing through the arena halls. "You do realize most of the others will finish long before you even figure out the first puzzle." Ethan glanced up at her. "I will do my best. That is all anyone can do." Lyra laughed, a sound that danced across the metal walls. "Your best? I can't wait to see it fail." The other aliens in the waiting area whispered among themselves. They had been following the story of this human all morning, and now it seemed certain he would be humiliated. The human's reputation for weakness had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. No one expected him to last more than a few minutes. The announcement blared across the arena. "Participants, prepare for the first challenge, the Maze of Flux." The Maze of Flux was a constantly changing labyrinth, filled with energy barriers, sliding platforms, and shifting walls. Aliens used their speed, multiple limbs, and advanced reflexes to navigate it quickly. Humans had never attempted it before. Ethan took a deep breath, reminding himself that adaptability was his greatest strength. The starting gate opened, and the participants surged forward. Lyra zipped ahead with confidence, her movements graceful and precise. She dodged energy streams effortlessly, laughing at those she passed. Ethan stepped carefully, observing each movement, predicting how the barriers would shift, and adjusting his path accordingly. He stumbled once when a platform tilted unexpectedly, but quickly regained his balance. He noticed that timing was more important than speed, a lesson he had learned from years of navigating dangerous environments on Earth. Lyra glanced back and saw him still moving through the maze. Slower than the others, but careful and deliberate. Her eyes narrowed in amusement. "Pathetic," she muttered. "How can anyone take so long?" But as she advanced, she noticed something strange. Ethan didn't panic. His calmness was steady, almost unnerving. When a wall of shifting energy rose before him, he paused briefly, calculated the timing, and slipped through with perfect precision. The crowd watching from above began to murmur. The human was not fast, but he was precise. He avoided mistakes that caused many aliens to stumble or take wrong turns. Some began to whisper about the humans. Strange luck. Others started to wonder if there was something more behind his calm demeanor. Lyra reached the first checkpoint and turned. To see Ethan approaching the same point, she raised her arms dramatically. Well, looks like you made it this far. Don't get too proud. Human, this is just the beginning." Ethan gave a small nod. "I understand. I am only getting started." The next section of the maze was even more difficult. Platforms shifted faster, walls moved unpredictably, and energy streams arced dangerously across the path. Many aliens miscalculated their jumps or hesitated, costing precious time. Ethan, however, relied on observation. He noted the subtle vibrations in the floor and the slight flickers in the energy barriers. With each step, he anticipated the next movement, never rushing, never panicking. Lyra watched, her earlier confidence beginning to waver. This human seemed capable. She couldn't understand it. How could someone so slow and fragile move through the maze without error? Her violet eyes widened slightly, betraying her shock. At the third checkpoint, Ethan faced the most dangerous part of the maze, a narrow bridge suspended over a pit of flowing energy. One misstep would result in a fall. Many aliens leaped recklessly, relying on reflexes and speed, but several slipped and fell, causing chaos. Ethan took a deep breath, observing the rhythm of the energy flow. He stepped carefully, placing each foot precisely where it needed to go. His arms extended slightly for balance, his focus absolute. Slowly, steadily, he crossed the bridge. When he reached the other side, a faint cheer broke out from some of the spectators. Lyra clenched her fists. "Impossible," she muttered. She had expected him to fail, to struggle, to embarrass himself, but he hadn't. He had moved through the maze with a combination of patience and intelligence she had never seen before. The final part of the Maze of Flux required participants to solve a puzzle. 3 energy conduits needed to be redirected in the correct order to unlock the exit gate. Aliens were quick to manipulate the conduits, often relying on trial and error, which wasted time and caused mistakes. Ethan, however, paused to study the puzzle. He noticed the faint markings on the floor, patterns in the energy flow, and the subtle timing of the conduits. With careful movements, he redirected the energy in the correct sequence on the first attempt. The exit gate opened smoothly for him, while others struggled, resetting the conduits multiple times. Lyra finally reached the exit gate herself. She looked at Ethan, who was already waiting, calm and composed. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. For the first time, she was speechless. You did it," she said finally, her voice quieter than before. "I didn't think it was possible." Ethan smiled faintly. "It is not impossible. It is only different from what you expected," Lyra frowned. She didn't like being surprised, and yet she couldn't deny it. The human had done something no other alien could do, not through speed, strength, or reflexes, but through observation, patience, and reasoning. The crowd erupted into applause. Some aliens began to murmur about the human's abilities, realizing that perhaps humans were not as weak as they had assumed. Ethan's calm determination, his ability to adapt, and his intelligence were qualities they had underestimated. Lyra followed him out of the maze, her steps slower than usual. She had mocked him at the beginning, assuming he was fragile and unremarkable. But now, seeing him succeed where many of her species had failed, she began to reconsider. "Human," she said, still keeping a teasing edge, "I admit. That was impressive. But don't think it means you can beat me in the next round." Ethan nodded. "I do not need to beat anyone. I only need to do my best." Her violet eyes softened slightly, though she tried not to show it. There was something about the way he spoke, the way he moved, that was quietly powerful. Not the raw strength that most aliens valued, but a strength of character and mind. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. "Challenge 1 complete. Participants prepare for the next round, the obstacle gauntlet." Lyra's lips curved into a small smile. She had underestimated the human, and now she was curious. Curiosity was dangerous for someone like her. It meant she might learn something new, something that could challenge everything she thought she knew about humans. Ethan stepped forward calmly, ready for the next challenge. He had survived the first test, not through arrogance or speed, but through focus and reasoning. Whatever the gauntlet held, he would face it the same way, observing, analyzing, and adapting. Lyra followed, keeping a careful eye on him. She no longer saw him as fragile. Instead, she saw potential human potential, and for the first time, she wondered what else humans might be capable of, if only others would stop underestimating them. As they entered the next area, the tension between them shifted. Mockery was replaced by cautious respect. The first challenge had been a lesson for Lyra as much as for Ethan, and the true tests, the ones that would show who they really were. Still to come, the arena waited. The obstacles were more dangerous, the challenges more complex. But Ethan stepped forward with quiet confidence, ready to prove that humans could survive, adapt, and even excel in ways the galaxy had not expected. And Lyra, watching him, realized that perhaps she had been wrong about humans all along. The arena's next challenge was announced, and this time it was unlike anything the participants had faced before. It was called the Chamber of Trials, a vast area filled with a mixture of obstacles, puzzles, and unpredictable hazards. Unlike the previous rounds, which tested individual skill, this challenge required teamwork, strategy, and adaptability. Lyra stepped forward, her violet eyes fixed on Ethan. For the first time, she no longer felt the urge to mock him. Instead, she was curious, intrigued by the calm. A thoughtful human who had already impressed the entire station. "You're with me." "Human," she said, her voice firm, but without its usual teasing edge. Ethan inclined his head. "I am ready to work together." The gate to the chamber opened, revealing a maze of walls that shifted constantly. Energy streams that arced across the floor, and platforms that moved unpredictably. Some aliens charged forward recklessly, hoping to rely on speed and strength. Lyra glanced at them, shaking her head. "They'll fall behind quickly," she muttered. Ethan and Lyra moved cautiously, observing the hazards and planning each step. Where Lyra relied on her natural agility and quick reflexes, Ethan relied on his keen observation and problem-solving skills. Together, they began to make progress faster than any other. Participants. The first obstacle was a series of suspended platforms over a pit of glowing energy. Each platform tilted unpredictably, requiring precise timing to cross safely. Lyra leaped forward confidently, while Ethan paused to watch the platforms, calculating the timing. "Don't wait too long," Lyra called. "I've observed the pattern," Ethan replied calmly. "I can cross safely if I move with care." Step by step, he moved across the platforms with precise timing, landing safely on the other side. Lyra watched him, a small smile forming. She realized that his careful approach, which she had once thought was slow and weak, was actually a form of intelligence and skill. Impressive. She admitted quietly. The next section of the chamber presented a puzzle. 3 energy gates blocked their path, each requiring a different code to unlock. The other aliens rushed forward blindly, trying random sequences, often triggering traps that sent them backward. Ethan crouched, examining the gates carefully. He noticed faint markings on the walls and subtle patterns in the energy flow. With a series of calm, deliberate movements, he input the correct sequences. The gates opened smoothly. Lyra's eyes widened. "How do you always know what to do?" she asked, her voice tinged with admiration. "Observation and reasoning," Ethan said simply. "Rushing rarely solves problems that require thought." They continued through the chamber, encountering more hazards. Some sections required climbing walls with shifting holds, while others demanded they navigate corridors filled with moving energy barriers. Lyra moved with grace and speed, while Ethan calculated each move, predicting the timing of obstacles. As they progressed, the other aliens began to fall behind. Many relied solely on speed, strength, or instinct. But the combination of human intelligence and Lyra's agility proved unbeatable. The crowd, watching from above, whispered among themselves, amazed at the duo's progress. At one point, they reached a large energy field blocking the exit path. Sensors detected movement, so any false step could trigger a surge of energy that would push participants back to the start. Lyra glanced at the human, unsure of what to do. "Step carefully, Ethan," said calmly. "Observe the pulses and follow the safe pattern." Lyra nodded, and together they moved through the energy field. Lyra followed Ethan's guidance, stepping only where he indicated, timing her movements with precision. They reached the other side without triggering the trap. "Good thinking," she said, slightly out of breath, but smiling. "I should have paid attention to observations sooner." Ethan shrugged lightly. Observation is often more effective than speed alone. The final part of the chamber was a climbing challenge. A vertical wall stretched high above, with moving holds and occasional energy beams blocking the path. Lyra leaped up, her limbs strong and flexible, while Ethan studied the wall, noticing the timing of the energy beams and the movement of the holds. "Follow my path," Ethan instructed. "I've calculated the safest route." Lyra nodded and climbed beside him, adjusting her movements according to his timing. Step by step, they ascended the wall. When an energy beam shifted unexpectedly, Lyra reacted instinctively. But Ethan's careful observation had anticipated the change, and he guided her through. As they reached the top together, the crowd erupted into cheers. The other participants were struggling below, some exhausted, some confused. The human and the alien girl had completed the chamber flawlessly. Combining their unique skills in a way no one had expected, Lyra looked at Ethan, her usual teasing tone gone. You really are something human," she said quietly. "I only act as I can," Ethan replied with a calm smile. "You have your strengths too. Together, we are more effective." Her violet eyes softened. She realized that she had been wrong to mock him earlier. This human was not weak. He was clever, adaptable, and calm under pressure. His intelligence complemented her agility, and together, it surpassed the other participants. The announcer's voice echoed through the arena. "Challenge complete. Congratulations to Ethan and Lyra for demonstrating exceptional teamwork. adaptability, and skill. Few participants have ever completed the chamber so efficiently. The crowd cheered louder than ever. Lyra felt a surge of pride, not just in herself, but in the human who had shown her a new kind of strength. Later, as they walked toward the exit, Lyra glanced at Ethan. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "I mocked you at the beginning. I thought humans were weak, but I see now that I was wrong." Ethan smiled. "Acknowledging mistakes is a sign of strength." Apology accepted. For the first time, Lyra felt a true respect for a human. It was not based on physical power or appearance, but on intelligence, patience, and the ability to adapt to challenges. Humans, she realized, had a kind of strength that could not be measured by size, speed, or reflexes. The arena's final challenge loomed ahead, a test of both mental and physical skill that would determine the ultimate victor. But for Lyra, the lesson had already been learned. The human she had mocked had shown her that assumptions could be wrong, and that sometimes the quietest and smallest participants could surprise even the most confident observers. Ethan turned to her. "Are you ready for the final challenge?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "Yes, and this time, I want to see what we can do together, not just for victory, but to prove what humans are capable of." Ethan smiled faintly. "Then let us proceed." As they approached the next arena, the atmosphere changed. There was no longer mockery, no teasing, only focus and determination. Lyra had learned that strength came in many forms, and humans were capable of extraordinary things when underestimated. The final challenge would test their teamwork, intelligence, and adaptability. And as they stepped forward, Lyra realized that she was no longer just observing a human. She was working alongside a being who could teach her something new about resilience, problem-solving, and the unexpected power of humanity. Together, they faced the unknown, ready to show that humans, when underestimated, could rise to challenges no one else could. And for the first time, Lyra felt that perhaps she could learn as much from Ethan as he could from her. The arena waited. The final challenge was coming. And this time, no one would underestimate the human. The obstacle gauntlet stretched before the participants like a living puzzle. Steel beams crisscrossed overhead, energy barriers flickered unpredictably, and moving platforms shifted in impossible patterns. Aliens approached it with confidence, their multiple limbs and natural agility giving them an advantage. But for Ethan, the gauntlet was not about speed. It was about thinking, observing, and adapting. Lyra perched on a hovering platform above the entrance, her violet eyes scanning the participants. She smirked as she spotted Ethan hesitating at the threshold. "Are you ready to embarrass yourself again, human?" she called, her voice light but sharp. Ethan's gaze met hers calmly. "I am ready for the challenge." She laughed, shaking her head. "You really are brave or foolish." "Perhaps both." The gate opened and the participants rushed forward. Lyra leaped across the first moving platform with ease, spinning through the air and landing perfectly. Other aliens followed, some stumbling, some gracefully gliding forward. Ethan stepped carefully, taking in every movement, every vibration of the platforms. He observed the rhythm and timing, noting patterns that most aliens ignored in their rush to move quickly. The first challenge within the gauntlet was a corridor filled with laser grids that pulsed unpredictably. Aliens dashed through it, some using speed, others leaping in acrobatics. Ethan paused at the entrance, scanning the grid. He noticed subtle differences in the energy flows, light variations in timing that would allow him to move safely. One by one, he stepped forward, timing his movements with precision. He slipped through narrow gaps, ducked under low beams, and avoided the flashing lasers with calm focus. Lyra, watching above, tilted her head. She had never seen a human move like this before. For a being so small and seemingly fragile, Ethan had a rhythm and patience that even the most skilled aliens lacked. "Unbelievable," she muttered under her breath. "How's he doing that?" Next came the balance challenge, a series of floating platforms suspended over a pit of shimmering plasma. The platforms moved in complex patterns, some tilting unexpectedly, others spinning slowly. Most aliens rushed, relying on instinct and agility, often misjudging the distance. Ethan, however, paused to observe. He watched the movement of each platform, predicting its tilt and spin, and stepped carefully. When a platform tilted dangerously under his weight, he shifted his balance subtly, almost imperceptibly, and continued forward. Lyra's eyes widened as she realized he was not only surviving, but doing so with grace. She had expected him to stumble, to fall, to be stopped by a simple mechanical obstacle. Yet he moved as if he had studied the gauntlet before entering, his mind calm, precise, and adaptable at the halfway point. The arena presented its toughest puzzle: 3 energy conduits, each controlling a different section of the gauntlet, needed to be activated in the correct sequence to allow safe passage. Aliens rushed to the conduits, trying random combinations, often triggering traps that sent them backward. Ethan stepped forward, studying the conduits carefully. He noticed small markings etched into the surrounding floor, faint energy patterns that hinted at the correct order. Unlike the other participants, he paused, analyzing the information instead of acting impulsively. Slowly, deliberately, he redirected the energy flow. One by one, the conduits activated, the path ahead clearing without incident. Lyra, watching from above, could hardly believe her eyes. "No, that's impossible," she whispered. She had expected the human to panic or fail, but instead he had solved the puzzle with calm logic and careful observation. Even the elder reptilian, diplomat observing the challenge, leaned forward. "He is remarkable," he muttered. "This is more than adaptability. There is something different about him. Something human." The final segment of the gauntlet required participants to navigate a room filled with shifting walls and hidden traps. Many aliens ran headfirst, relying on reflexes and speed. Ethan, however, walked slowly, observing the environment. He noticed subtle vibrations in the walls, small air currents indicating hidden passages, and even slight color shifts that hinted at traps. One by one, he moved through the room, avoiding hazards that caught others off guard. Lyra followed closely behind him, moving faster but realizing that her speed sometimes put her in danger. For the first time, she had to slow down, to consider not only her reflexes, but also her decisions. "Stop staring at me," Ethan said calmly when he noticed her hesitation. "You must focus on your own path." Lyra's ears twitched. "I'm not staring. I'm observing." "Observation is good," Ethan said with a small smile. "Rushing is not always better." Her violet eyes narrowed, and she felt a strange mix of irritation and respect. This human was teaching her a lesson without even speaking it aloud. She had mocked him at the start, expecting weakness. But now she could not deny his skill, his calmness, and his cleverness. Finally, the gauntlet ended with a large platform suspended above a pit of glowing energy. Participants needed to activate a final lever to open the exit gate. Many aliens hesitated, unsure of the platform's stability. Ethan stepped forward, observing the vibrations and energy flows carefully. He pressed the lever confidently, and the platform shifted just enough to allow safe passage. The exit gate opened smoothly. Ethan walked through first, calm and composed. Lyra followed a few steps behind, feeling an unfamiliar sense of admiration. She had expected to be ahead, to outshine him, to mock him again, but that was no longer possible. "You," she said finally, breathless. "You are extraordinary." Ethan looked at her, his expression gentle. "I do not claim to be extraordinary. I only act as I can. Observation, patience, and careful thought can solve many problems." Lyra frowned, her pride stung. She had spent so long believing in her superiority and the weakness of humans. Now, faced with his calm competence, she realized she had been wrong. Humans were not always the strongest, but their minds. Their minds were something else. Something unpredictable, resilient, and clever. The spectators erupted into applause. Aliens whispered among themselves, many astonished by what they had seen. A human had not only survived, but excelled in a challenge designed to test the galaxy's most skilled species. It was a sight few would forget. Lyra followed Ethan out of the gauntlet, her usual teasing smile replaced with something softer: curiosity, respect, and even a hint of humility. "I didn't expect that," she admitted. Ethan nodded politely. "Few do. Humans are often underestimated." She laughed softly, a sound without its usual sharpness. "Underestimated? That's one way to put it. I suppose I misjudged you." "Misjudgment happens when assumptions are made," Ethan said simply. "It is natural. What matters is learning from it." Lyra tilted her head, considering his words. She had always thought of humans as fragile, unremarkable, and amusing at best. But now she saw something different, a species capable of surprising even the most confident aliens. Their strength was subtle, often overlooked, but powerful nonetheless. The elder reptilian diplomat approached, nodding in approval. "You have done well, human. Your patience, reasoning, and calm observation are impressive. Few beings could navigate the gauntlet without error." Ethan bowed slightly. "Thank you, sir. I only did what I could with what I know." Lyra glanced at him, her violet eyes reflecting both wonder and newfound respect. "You know, I think I may have underestimated humans for a very long time," she admitted softly. Ethan smiled faintly. "Perhaps that is not surprising. Humans are rare here. Many only see what they expect, not what is possible." The crowd began to disperse, leaving Ethan and Lyra alone on the observation platform. The first challenges were over, but both knew the real tests were still ahead. The alien station held many surprises, and the gauntlet had been only the beginning. Lyra stepped closer to him. "Tell me, human, where do you come from that makes you so resilient?" Ethan considered her question for a moment. "I come from Earth. It is a world with many challenges: storms, mountains, oceans, and vast spaces. Humans have learned to survive there, to adapt, to think. That is where I come from." Lyra's eyes widened. Earth. She had heard stories of humans from traders and travelers, tales of a world that was wild and unpredictable. But to see a human embody that resilience firsthand, it was different. It was powerful. She realized that her mockery had been misplaced. This human had shown her a lesson not about weakness, but about strength. Not about speed or power, but about intelligence, patience, and adaptability. For the first time, she saw humans in a new light. They were not fragile. They were not simple. They were remarkable, in a way that even advanced aliens struggled to understand. And as they prepared for the next round, Lyra felt a strange sense of anticipation. She wanted to see what else this human could do, how far he could go, and perhaps, to learn from him herself. The stage was set. The challenges ahead would be even greater. And the revelation of human potential was only beginning. Ethan, calm and determined, and Lyra, curious and reflective, stepped forward together, ready for whatever the arena would throw at them next. The final challenge of the arena was unlike any other. It was called the Trial of Harmony, a test designed to measure intellect, strength, teamwork, and the ability to adapt to sudden, unpredictable changes. The chamber was enormous, filled with shifting platforms, energy barriers, and holographic puzzles that changed every few seconds. The spectators gathered in awe, knowing this challenge had defeated even the most skilled participants in the past. Lyra glanced at Ethan, standing calmly at the entrance. She had been through the first rounds with him, and each time he had shown a new level of skill, observation, and patience. Now, she realized fully that humans were not weak. They were resilient, clever, and capable of adapting to situations that no alien might expect. "You ready, human?" she asked, though her voice carried neither mockery nor doubt this time. Ethan nodded. "I am ready. Together, we can proceed." The gate opened, revealing the Trial of Harmony. Platforms moved unpredictably over glowing pits. Energy walls shifted in patterns that seemed impossible to predict. Holographic puzzles floated in the air, their symbols rearranging themselves in ways that defied logic at first glance. Many aliens charged forward recklessly, relying on instinct, speed, and multiple limbs. Some made it part way before falling or getting trapped. But Ethan and Lyra moved together, combining their strengths. Lyra's agility allowed her to leap and climb quickly, while Ethan's careful observation guided them along paths that avoided hidden traps and energy pulses. The first obstacle was a series of moving platforms that rotated and shifted as they stepped. Lyra prepared to leap recklessly, but Ethan stopped her with a gentle hand. "Wait," he said calmly. "Observe first. Rush can be dangerous here." Lyra hesitated, but then watched. She saw the slight wobble of one platform, the timing of a rotating beam above, and the subtle pattern in the floor below. Ethan moved first, testing the rhythm, and Lyra followed, adjusting her leaps precisely. Together, they crossed the platforms without incident. "Impressive," she admitted softly. "I would have fallen if not for your timing." "It is not just timing," Ethan said, glancing at her. "It is observation, planning, and patience." The next section of the trial was a complex puzzle of floating energy gates. Each gate required a code to open, and the codes changed every few seconds. Aliens tried random sequences, often triggering traps or forcing resets. Ethan crouched to study the gates carefully. He noticed faint flickers in the symbols, small clues that revealed the correct sequences. Lyra watched him, realizing that the human's mind could detect patterns that others missed. With careful movements, Ethan input the codes correctly, and the gates opened smoothly. "Your mind. It works differently," Lyra said, awe creeping into her voice. "You see things I cannot." Ethan smiled faintly. "Perhaps, but your speed and agility are just as important. We are stronger together." They continued through the chamber, facing more obstacles. Some walls moved unpredictably, some floors shifted dangerously, and some energy streams could knock participants off balance. Lyra moved quickly, but she followed Ethan's guidance, trusting his calculations and observations. Step by step, they progressed, avoiding the mistakes that trapped others. At one point, they reached a large, rotating barrier blocking the exit. Many aliens tried to force their way through, relying on strength and speed. Ethan stepped forward calmly, analyzing the movement. "Wait," he instructed. "Use the timing of the rotations. Step only when the barriers align perfectly." Lyra followed him precisely, leaping and ducking at the right moments. Together, they moved through the barrier, landing safely on the other side. The spectators gasped. Aliens who had doubted humans' abilities now whispered among themselves, astonished at the display of intelligence, patience, and adaptability. The final test within the Trial of Harmony was a combination of puzzle solving and physical skill. A series of holographic locks floated in the air, each controlling platforms that led to the final exit. To succeed, participants had to solve the puzzles in the correct order while balancing on moving platforms and avoiding energy pulses. Ethan approached the holograms, studying the patterns carefully. He noticed faint energy traces and subtle shifts that revealed the correct sequence. Lyra watched, impressed by his calm confidence. Step by step, he solved the puzzles, unlocking platforms in sequence. Lyra moved with him, adjusting her leaps and timing to match the changes. Finally, they reached the last platform, a narrow bridge over a pit of glowing energy. It tilted and shifted unpredictably, making balance difficult. Lyra's heart raced, but she trusted Ethan. "Follow my lead," he said calmly. Together they crossed the bridge, step by step, adjusting to the tilts and shifts. When the end came into view, Lyra felt a surge of triumph, not just for completing the challenge, but for the human who had taught her the value of patience, observation, and teamwork. The exit gate opened, and the crowd erupted into cheers. For the first time, a human had completed the Trial of Harmony, not alone, but in partnership with an alien who had once mocked him. Lyra looked at Ethan, her violet eyes shining with respect and admiration. You truly are extraordinary," she said softly. "I misjudged humans. I see now that your strength is not always visible at first glance, but it is real and powerful." Ethan smiled gently. "Strength can take many forms. Humans adapt. We survive, I think. And sometimes that is enough to overcome even the greatest challenges." The elder reptilian diplomat approached, nodding in approval. Human, you have shown remarkable skill, intelligence, and composure. Few beings have ever completed the trial of harmony, and even fewer have done so with such efficiency. You have earned the respect of all present." Lyra stepped closer to Ethan, her usual teasing tone replaced by genuine sincerity. "I apologize for mocking you at the beginning. I judged you without understanding. Now I see that humans are capable of far more than I imagined." Ethan inclined his head. "Acknowledgement and learning are signs of strength, not weakness." Apology accepted. For a long moment, they stood together, surveying the arena. The trials had tested not only their physical and mental abilities, but also their ability to work together. They had succeeded because they combined their unique strengths: Lyra's agility and speed, Ethan's observation and reasoning, and trusted one another. The crowd continued to cheer, and for the first time, humans in the galaxy were seen not as weak, but as extraordinary, capable of surprising even the most advanced civilizations. The story of this human and the alien girl would be remembered as an example of courage, adaptability, and respect earned through action. As the arena began to clear, Lyra turned to Ethan. "I hope we will face more challenges together," she said, a small smile on her lips. "I have learned a lot from you today." Ethan nodded. "And I have learned from you as well. Cooperation makes even the most difficult challenges possible." The two walked out of the arena side by side, no longer as mocker and mocked, but as equals partners who had discovered the power of combining intelligence, patience, and skill. The station's visitors whispered among themselves, inspired by what they had witnessed. Humans, they realized, were a species not to be underestimated. As they reached the observation platform above the city, Lyra looked at the stars, thinking about what she had learned. "Perhaps humans are not just survivors," she said quietly. "Perhaps we underestimated them because we could not imagine the strength behind their minds and hearts." Ethan smiled faintly. "Humans adapt, we learn, and sometimes that is enough to change the way others see us." For the first time, Lyra understood that human strength was not always visible in muscle or reflexes. It was in courage, in calm reasoning, in patience, and in the ability to adapt to the unknown. And in that moment, she knew that humans were special in ways that even the most advanced alien civilizations might never fully understand. The arena had tested them both. It had revealed human potential and the value of respect earned through action. And as the sun set over the alien city below, casting long shadows across the gleaming towers, Lyra and Ethan walked forward, ready for whatever adventures awaited them next. They had faced mockery, challenges, and doubt, and they had emerged stronger, together, showing the galaxy that humans were capable of more than anyone had imagined. The story of this human and the alien girl would be told for generations. A reminder that respect is earned through action. And that strength comes in many forms, sometimes hidden, sometimes quiet, but always remarkable. Ethan glanced at Lyra, and she returned his gaze with a small nod. The mockery was gone. The lesson was learned. And the bond between them was stronger than any challenge the arena could present. Humans had proven themselves once again, not by brute force, but by courage, intelligence, and the ability to adapt. And in the eyes of the galaxy, they would never be underestimated again.